understood that eventually all the happiness that he had there would eventually turn to suffering. What does this mean, that the happiness will turn to suffering? So let's look at this through the scene called the Four Gates to try to understand this better. So to show you a little movie clip by this actress with Keanu Reeves.
Suddenly, however, through the crowd, the young prince saw something he had never seen before. Shut up! Shut up! Who are those men? Tell me, who are those men? They are men like the rest of us, my lord, who once sucked milk from their mother's breast. And what do they look like then? They are old, my lord. What do you mean, old? Old age destroys memory, beauty, and strength. It gave the apple to us all, my lord. To everyone? To you and to me? It is better not to concern yourself with these things, my lord. Why are they taking them? Jack! No, my lord. Don't go there, please. You mustn't. No, my lord. My lord. My lord, Siddhartha. What is the matter with those people? Why is she crying like that? She is in pain, my lord. She is very sick. Sick? What is that? No one reaches the moment of death without falling sick at least once. even kings. And death, what moment is that? Show me death. This is death, my Lord. The ashes are given to the river, my Lord.
Okay. So this is they call the four gates, the scene of the four gates. So the prince went out four gates, and there he saw four situations, four different situations. Like we saw in the movie, we saw old age, we saw sickness, and we saw death. And the prince was shocked to realize that all earthly happiness, even though he was a prince or a king, cannot transcend old age, sickness, or death. So he was very surprised to see this. And but then in the north gate, he saw an ascetic doing practices, and that then he realized that there was a way that we can, if we can't overcome old age, sickness, and death, maybe there is a way to find the root cause of suffering and find true happiness in this lifetime. So, this is we learned about the suffering of aging in the movie. Do you know what the assistant said to the king? Anybody remember? When you get old, what happens? I thought it was very good what they said. Yeah, he talked about the memory dying and the body fading, right? So a lot of things happen, a lot of bad things happen. So the suffering happens because once we were young, once we were not old, we were young once, like the prince. But the longer we live, then the worse things get. A lot of these things here are symptoms of aging. So most people want to stay young and stay healthy, but we can't. As soon as we're born, we are always aging. So the happiness that we got from our youth, from being young, is taken away through aging. So even if you're a king or a prince or a president, we all have no choice. We cannot, even if we want it and we wish it, we have no way of stopping aging. And then we learned about the suffering of sickness. So the prince was healthy right at that time, but he learned that nobody lives their whole life without being sick, he was told. So people are vessels for disease. There are all kinds of diseases, right? It's said that there are 100 forms of cancer, and AIDS, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and so on. Each year, globally, about 14 million people are diagnosed with cancer. It is said that even if we live a really long life, we will eventually die from cancer. So people didn't have cancer in the past, they didn't live long enough to have cancer. So I was told, I learned this in microbiology, that if we live to be 130 or 150, we will die of cancer anyway, because it's the body breaking down. And then he saw the suffering of death. And death is the worst suffering. We don't like thinking about death. And it's also the most severest punishment. That's why it's called capital punishment. It's for the worst, the most suffering punishment. Even animals dislike death. Nobody wants to die. They have, even if they don't learn about death, they have the instinct of it and they try to run away, right? And it's said that we are scared of things such as heights or an airplane or a disease or going to the doctor because we are afraid of dying. Some people would just prefer to live not knowing if they are sick instead of going to the doctor and having a doctor tell them they're sick. They prefer, just don't, ignorance is bliss, right? Don't tell me about it. If I don't go to the doctor, I'll be happy. So because we all fear death. So then at the age of 29, on the 8th of February, the prince decided to act on his wish and to find true happiness. And he departed from the castle to go into the mountains and do ascetic practices and find a solution to his suffering that he could not find within the castle. So, why does we have a discussion time now for about 10 minutes? I'd like to discuss why did the prince realize that happiness turns to suffering? How did he realize that happiness changes suffering? Like I said, I didn't realize this until I started learning Buddhism. It's a very simple concept, but actually it's a very profound concept too. Our happiness turns to suffering. Wow. How does that happen? So I want you to think about it and talk about it and see what you can discuss, for about 10 minutes.
Any idea how this happened? I don't think.
So why does happiness turn to suffering? Can we explain somebody? Let's say somebody comes in here and we tell them this. How can we explain that happiness turns to suffering?
Can you give us any example?
Hmm? Yeah.
example do you have?
Yeah, the four gates that we learned about, right? The four gates is about happiness that you had before turning to suffering later in life, right? Old age, sickness, and then death. Yeah. So all happiness will go away when we are faced with old age, sickness, or death. So we are happy now. If we are happy now because we're healthy, then what happens when our health disappears? Our happiness disappears too. If we are happy now because we have money, what happens when our money goes away? If it's stolen, our happiness disappears too, and we suffer.
When people believe the happiness, happiness will continue. At the time, we feel happiness, but Siddhartha felt the impermanence. And this happiness does not continue, and did not continue. So, he felt the happiness turn into the suffering. Is it right? Is it happy?
Yes. Actually, death destroys everything, right? So I think we can understand old age and sickness very easily because when we're young, we can do a lot of things. We can be very active. We don't get tired so easily. You know, we have a lot of fun when you're young. But when you get old, then you have to stop doing all those things. You know, you walk slowly, you can't get out of bed so much, all these things, right? You're kind of stuck in your home, a lot of old people. So the happiness of your youth is gone. So your happiness has turned to suffering with your old age. Yeah. We can understand the sickness too, because the sickness, we were healthy once and now we're sick. All we have is the memory. We have the memory of being healthy. Isn't that terrible? Isn't that awful?
Awful to forget.
Yeah, the memory.
A lot of things.
Yeah, the memory of yesterday's health can be very suffering when we are, in pain today. They say health is wealth. Health is wealth, right? Why is it wealth? Because you can do lots of things when you're healthy. So we should never take it for granted. Oh, I'm healthy because any day we can lose it.
Health is the foundation of life. Healthy world. Healthy world. Better the world.
Wealth, huh? Wealth, yes. Health is wealth.
Well,
And then how about death? Why is death suffering? Why is death suffering? How does our happiness turn to suffering at the moment of death? How do you think? Because it destroys everything, right? Death destroys everything that we have. Nothing that we have, nothing that we We can't take anything with us when we die, right? So even if we're healthy, or even if we have possessions, even if we're young, when we die, we realize that we cannot take anything with us. Any of our accomplishments, our achievements, um, the things that we have attained, we can't take any of it with us. So that's taught in Buddhism as being the greatest suffering, right? Because we actually, even our own bodies, huh? Our bank account, if there's a lot of money in it. Yeah, so it's got to be terrible, terrible suffering. So the happiness that we got from everything in life is suddenly gone. It's suddenly been stolen, like a thief. It's being stolen from us. How do you feel when you've had something stolen from you? Do you feel happy? No. It's painful, right? I think we've all had stuff stolen from us at one time or another. Maybe in high school. Have you had something stolen? No? Really? Oh, in Japan, it's very, very good place. What about Russia? Yeah.
Many things.
Do you owe many things? Yeah. In in your home country, right? What about you, Ichi? Have something stolen from you? Yeah, I've had stuff stolen from me as well. It's very, very horrible feeling. Yeah, you feel betrayed from the happiness that you got from that thing. Um, so how can we imagine how we're going to feel when we have to be betrayed by our life, our very own life that we rely on every day, that we never think is going to betray us, right? Nobody thinks they will die today, right? Nobody thinks. Nobody wakes up in the morning thinking, "Oh, today." No. We all think that we're going to live today, and we make plans for today and tomorrow, right? But then one day we have to die, whether it's today or tomorrow, whenever it is. But it comes unexpectedly. We're not expecting it, right? And then how do we feel? We feel betrayed from our own life. Our own life has betrayed us. And that's very shocking to feel betrayal, right? What do you think of betrayal? Do you have any? Have you been betrayed? Nothing has been stolen from you, but have you been betrayed before? Yeah. Mm. It's a harsh life lesson. Mm. Can you give us an example, a specific example, or anybody?
Do you have any experience? Can you share us?
No. How about when somebody around us dies? If you have ever had the experience of someone dying around you, maybe somebody has had the experience of someone dying, and you don't. Some people can feel betrayal by a family member dying that they relied on a lot, a parent dying, and you're not ready for him to die, or it was suddenly. You can feel very betrayed. Why did they leave you? Even though it doesn't make kind of common sense, but you feel like a sense of betrayal. So then you feel very angry.
When pets die, people feel they are betrayed. Mm.
Yeah, so the happiness that we had, we rely on happiness to keep living. We rely on our belief to keep living, and our belief is happiness. Our belief brings us happiness. Right? We believe in our job, our pets, our family, our health, our money, whatever, and that's our happiness. But when that belief is taken away suddenly, or when it's betrayed, then we plunge into unhappiness instantly. And our happiness turns to suffering then. Yeah. So that's what the prince Siddhartha felt, experienced in life. Right? But he knew it before he even went there. He realized it from a young age. He realized that his happiness would turn to suffering a long time in the future, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so all right. Okay, thank you. Let's go back. So, did you learn anything in the back row? Right. Yes, how things really are. Yes, so it sees the reality of life. It wasn't, yes, exactly. So after 6 years of harsh practices, the prince reached what's called enlightenment, the highest enlightenment, the enlightenment of a Buddha. And it was December 8th. And then he began to teach. From then on, he discovered the root cause of suffering. What is the root cause of suffering? He discovered that. And even though he was still a human being, even though he will grow old, even though he might suffer from sickness, and even though he was still going to die, but he had eliminated the root cause of suffering. And from that time, the age of 35, until he died at the age of 80, he began to guide people to an understanding of the root cause of suffering and how to have it eliminated. So we can all be happy, even though we still have to live in this suffering world. We can find true happiness. So to listen to the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha is to go on the path towards true happiness that never fades, even in the face of old age, sickness, or death. None of these three things can destroy the happiness that is taught about in Buddhism. So let's continue to learn Buddhism more and share it with our friends so we and other people can find this great joy of life that the prince was looking for and which he eventually attained at the age of 35. Thank you, and join next time.